Hello, hope you're doing well today. So today we are finishing up part 3 of chapter 14, really looking at the tools that you use when you're planning your events and managing, controlling those events as well. So here we go. So forecasting is the process of predicting what will happen in the future. Managers pay particular attention to sales forecasts to predict consumer expenditures on sport, as does Nike in predicting extra sales for the Olympics. It is generally easier to accurately predict sales for regularly scheduled games than for special events. So in this section, we'll talk about qualitative and quantitative sales forecasting techniques. A sales forecast predicts the dollar amount of product that will be sold during a specified period. Accurate sales forecasts are crucial in planning because many activities hinge on them. Staffing and laying off workers, ordering inadequate supplies to meet production needs, and avoiding under or overstocking. Marketing departments typically forecast short-term sales a year out. The forecasts are reviewed by the sales manager who submits them for approval and possible adjustment by upper management. Marketing then uses the forecast to set sales quotas. The operations department uses the forecast to decide how much product or service to produce. Marketing also monitors inventory levels, production, and customer to adjust the forecast as needed. And finance uses forecasts to determine how much money the organization will take in so that the finance team can budget expenditures and also determine how much money the organization will need to borrow to cover short-term and long-term expenses. The Human Resource Department uses the forecast to increase staffing or plan for layoffs. The Pro team will use the ticket sales number to forecast its net revenues, which will also include advertising and media sales forecasts and team merchandise sales forecasts. Revenue forecasts help the team determine its budget for acquiring new talent. Companies use total industry sales to calculate their market share. Market share is the organization's percentage of total industry sales. Nike has the largest share of the global market for athletic shoe sales. Professional and trade publications forecast industry sales numbers to help organizations to analyze the environment and forecast their own sales. Organizations also take local conditions, especially local competition, into account when they forecast their sales. Sales forecasting techniques are either quantitative or qualitative by nature. Qualitative forecasting techniques primarily use subjective judgment, intuition, experience, and opinion to predict sales, although some math is also used. As you'll see in Table 14.3, qualitative techniques include individual opinion, a jury of executive opinion, sales force composites, customer composites, operating unit composites, and surveys. Only qualitative techniques can be used for new products or by new companies because there's not any past sales data that exists on which to base a quantitative forecast, although new companies can be influenced by all sorts of quantitative data if they're going into an established industry. The individual opinion, we all use our personal experience, our intuition, and past events to predict what we think will happen in the future. A person starting a new business alone has no option but to form an educated, based on industrial analysis, individual opinion. The jury of executive opinion is a group of managers or experts that pool their opinions to forecast sales. A typical example is a group meeting in which ideas are shared and an attempt is made to reach a consensus on the sales forecast. It is often used in business partnerships, which is the form of ownership of some professional franchises. The sales force composite. This approach combines forecasts made by each sales rep. These are then totaled to give the composite forecast. Managers often balance the composite with other forecast techniques. Salesforce composites work well when sales reps sell relatively expensive products or total orders with a clear-cut customer base or a territory. The customer composite is the purchase forecast of major customers that are combined. Managers often balance the customer composite with other forecasting techniques. It works well when an organization has relatively few customers with large volume sales. And your operating unit composite. These businesses with multiple operating units, such as chain stores like Dick's and Modell's, commonly predict the sales for each store and then add them to forecast total composite company sales. A business with multiple departments or products such as golf, baseball, soccer, and clothing departments can treat each department or product as an operating unit and combine them to create a total forecast. And then surveys. These are techniques that use mail or email questionnaires or telephone or personnel interviews to predict future purchases. A sample of a population is surveyed and a forecast for the entire population is made based on their responses. Questionnaire data collected are often used for statistical quantitative analysis. Quantitative forecasting techniques use objective mathematical techniques and past sales data to predict sales. Organizations typically combine quantitative and qualitative techniques to increase accuracy. Quantitative techniques include past sales, time series, and regression models. Qualitative techniques can be combined with quantitative ones as long as the products and companies have existed long enough to accrue an adequate database for sales. Time series and regression techniques require at least 1 year of data, and a longer period will give even better data results. This technique amounts to business forecasting by data, and although numbers can't tell the future, data do help. Past sales, these are techniques assume that past sales will be repeated or even be subjectively adjusted for environmental factors. The Red Sox have sold around 2 million tickets annually for the past 20 years, no matter how well the team has been performing on the field. Slight structural changes to venerable Fenway Park facilities allow the team to increase sales and to continue to consistently sell out each game. The Sox past sales therefore indicated a strong likelihood that this pattern would continue. Don't they all wish they had this kind of data and sales? It's just crazy. Time series predict future sales by extending the trend line of past sales into the future. Sales data are collected weekly, monthly, quarterly, or yearly and then plotted to show the trend. The trend line can be extended by hand, which is an upward trending line that implies increasing sales. A horizontal line implies flat sales, and a downward trend would imply decreased sales. And the sales estimated manually, but computer time series programs are much more accurate. Time series are also used to plot seasonal trends. With time series, adjustments for environmental factors are still made, but they are more objective. A regression model using line of best fit, which is beyond the scope of this book, is a mathematical modeling technique that helps you to minimize error as you find a line that best fits your sales data. Regression analysis therefore makes forecasts more accurate. As a manager, you will find regression analysis very useful. Simple regression analysis is not especially difficult. Make sure you master it in your statistic classes. A regression forecasting model is used to predict minor league baseball or MLB teams' ability to capture attendance and the long-term viability of a franchise. Scheduling is the process of listing essential activities in sequence with the time needed to complete each activity. Effective schedulers define the objective to be accomplished, break it into finite doable tasks, and make sure resources are available when needed. The details of the schedule answer the what, when, where, how, and who questions. When will the games take place? So the exact dates and times. Where are the venues scheduled? What time buses will be needed? And who will greet the athletes and make sure they are picked up and dropped off properly? All managers schedule resources, including their time. So let's start with two simple, fundamental time management tools you can use to schedule your daily activities: your calendars and to-do lists. Don't underestimate the value in maximizing your efficiency. There are planning apps. You should use them. One of my favorite is my Microsoft Office Outlook calendar. I put everything on there. It helps me in making sure that I am on schedule and doing what I need to do for that day. Planning sheets state an objective and list the sequence of activities, when each activity will begin and end, and who will complete each activity to meet the objective. Planning sheets work best with single activities that are fairly simple and they are accomplished in independent sequential steps. Note that you start with a clear objective in Chapter 4. Then you fill in who will be responsible for achieving the objective, the starting and ending dates, the priority, and the control checkpoints for monitoring progress. Next, list the sequence of activities and stating what, where, how resources are needed, and so on in the first column of the planning sheet. In the second and third columns, place the start and end time for each step. The fourth column indicates the person responsible for each step. Popularized by Henry Gantt in the early 1900s, Gantt charts use bar graphs to illustrate progress on a project. Activities are shown vertically and the time is shown horizontally. The resources to be allocated, such as people or machines, are shown on the vertical axis. Alternatively, a variety of department projects can be shown on the same chart. Gantt charts, like planning sheets, are appropriate for plans with independent and sequential steps. Two advantages of Gantt charts over planning sheets are that the chart's control is built in. Progress can be seen at a glance, and you can view multiple projects on one chart. This is very helpful when you are prioritizing and scheduling activities that use the same resources. You can see here figure 14.2 is a hypothetical Gantt chart for multiple orders at a manufacturing company in its operations department. Each bar represents the start to end time, and the filled in part represents order completion to date. The chart shows at a glance how orders are progressing. Knowing instantly when a project is behind schedule is crucial for taking corrective action. Assume that today is day 1 of week 3 in May. The end of the dark color of the bar should be directly under the 3 to be on schedule. What is the status of each of the 4 projects on the chart in figure 14.2? PERT is more complex because it indicates 2 types of activities. Independent activities can be performed simultaneously, whereas dependent activities cannot begin until a preceding activity has been completed. The planning sheet and Gantt chart are useful tools when the activities follow each other in a dependent series. However, when activities are both dependent on and independent of each other, and the event is more complex, PERT diagrams are more appropriate. PERT, which stands for Performance, Evaluation, and Review Technique diagrams, highlight the interdependence of the activities by diagramming their network. Here you see in figure 14.3 a PERT diagram. The PERT diagram indicates activities, time, arrows, and the critical path. Activities, there are 10 of them that are labeled A to J to be completed for this event. Time is measured in days. Activity A will take 2 days, A2, for example. The arrows show the sequence of activities that must be followed to the end of the event, numbered I9. The critical path, it tracks the most time-consuming series of activities and therefore determines the length of time it will take to complete a project. The double arrows show the project should take 18 days to complete. Any delay in completing the critical path delays the entire project. Many organizations focus on shortening the time it takes to complete each activity. For a time-based competition, the cost for each activity can also be tracked in a PERT diagram. Let's compare the three scheduling tools. The Gantt is the only one that diagrams multiple activities. Planning sheets and Gantt charts are typically used to develop procedures for routine standing plans, whereas PERT diagrams are more commonly used with single-use plans for complex projects with dependent activities. However, all three can be used for standing and single-use plans. Multiple tools can be used for the same complex event. Time is valuable, but we tend to waste it on average an hour a day. Time is measured objectively. We all have the same amount of time, but how we spend it is subjective. Time management enables people to get more done in less time with better results. Time management skills have a direct effect on your productivity and on your career. The idea is to work smarter, not harder, or to work less and do more. The good news is that time management skills can be developed. This section is all about time, and it shows you how to analyze your use of time, learn a time management system, and select from time management techniques to improve your time management skills. One time management skill might be you can use your phone. It is a great time management tool, but it also is a great time sucker. So be mindful of that. The 4 foundations of effective time management. The problem we all face is not a shortage of time. We all have the same 24 hours in a day, but rather the ineffective use of our time. Here are 4 things you can do to improve your time management skills. Number 1, prioritize. Seldom, if ever, do we have enough time to do everything we want to do. However, there is usually enough time to do what's really important. Employees confess to wasting time at work, doing unimportant and irrelevant activities like spending time on Facebook or social media. Don't confuse being busy with time-wasting activities with accomplishing important priorities. Do your most important priorities well and eliminate time wasters. Make it a rule to assign a priority to each task and do the most important thing first without unnecessary interruptions. Work on getting at least 90 minutes of uninterrupted time a day to accomplish top priorities. On my Microsoft Office Outlook calendar, it actually has focus time on there. That's the time that I typically have that time prioritized for activities like recording lectures. Set your objectives. We've been here before, so see chapter 4. But it's important because we should know the end result we want before we try to complete a task. People who get things done set objectives. Write down your objectives, the important things you need to accomplish. Plan how you are going to get your objectives done before taking action to complete a task. Don't skip this step. Schedule. Make a schedule each week and workday and complete your scheduled priorities. So this is chapter summary. You should be able to, after we've talked about all of this, describe what managing a sport facility entails. Describe what is involved in event planning. Explain how standing plans and single-use plans differ, and explain when and why contingency plans are necessary. Discuss how sales forecast shape strategy and how qualitative and quantitative forecasting techniques differ. Be able to explain how the jury of executive opinion and the 3 sales composites differ. Explain how past sales and time series forecasting techniques differ and when to use planning sheets, Gantt charts, and PERT diagrams. Be able to use a time log and manage your time better. All right, that is it for today and for the semester. Hey, I hope I've enjoyed talking with you, and I hope that you've enjoyed the class. I look forward to having you in another class. Talk to you soon. Have a great day.